working on adding and subtracting fractions in this review video. And in these problems, we start with unlike denominators, and we need to make like denominators so we can add or subtract. So let's look at the first one, 7/12 plus 5/6. So the first step, I wrote right down at the bottom, I wrote the steps like we talked about in class. The first step is find the like denominator. So we're going to rewrite this with a common denominator. So we have 12 and 6. We want to find the least common multiple of 12 and 6 and use that as our new denominator. And that would be 12, because 6 is a factor of 12. Now, the 7/12 can stay the same. But now we need to rewrite this 5/6 as 12ths. And that's the second step. Write equivalent fractions with the new denominator. So to get from 6 to 12, we multiplied by 2. So we need to do the same with the 5. 5 times 2 is 10. So 5/6 is equivalent to 10/12. Now we have two fractions with like denominators, so we can just add them. We add the numerators. 7 plus 10 is 17. Denominator stays the same, 17/12. Now, so we did this step, add or subtract. Last thing we do is simplify. So when we're doing this, I want to write the answer in as a mixed number. So this becomes 1 and 5/12, because there is one whole 12 in 17, and then you would need 5 more 12s. 1 and 5/12. That cannot be simplified because there are no common factors to 5 and 12. So that's your answer. Part B of 1, we have 9/10 plus 1/6. So we want to start by finding that common denominator. We have 10 and 6. We want to think about the least common multiple to use as our new denominator. You don't have to use the least common multiple. You can use any common multiple, but the least common multiple will make it easiest for you. So 10 and 6. If you need to, you can write out the multiples, 10, 20, 30, and then 6, 12, 18, 24, 30. We see that 30 is the least common multiple. So we'll use 30. Now we write equivalent fractions with the new denominator. So 9/10 becomes how many 30ths? You want to ask yourself, 10 times what is 30? 10 times 3 is 30. So then you want to do 9 times 3 to get the new numerator, which is 27. And then we want to change 1/6 to 30ths. So you ask yourself, 6 times what is 30? 6 times 5 is 30. So multiply the numerator also by 5. 1 times 5 is 5. Now you can add 27 plus 5 would be 32. So we have 32 30ths. Change that to a mixed fraction. You get 1 and 2 30ths. And now you can simplify that because 2 and 30 are both divisible by 2. And you get 1 and 1/15. Moving on to number 2, we have 2/3 minus 5/12. So we start by rewriting with a new denominator that's common. So 3 and 12, 3 actually goes into 12, so let's use 12. That way our 5/12 stays the same, and we just need to rewrite 2/3 as 12ths. So 2 times what is 12? 3 times what is 12? 3 times 4 is 12. So then we also multiply the numerator times 4. 2 times 4 is 8. So now we have 8/12 minus 5/12. So you just take the 8 minus the 5, and you get 3. Denominator stays the same, and you get 3/12. Now we can simplify this because 3 is a factor of both the numerator and denominator. So divide top and bottom by 3. 3 divided by 3 is 1. 12 divided by 3 is 4, and you get 1/4. Part B, 5/6 minus 7/10. So again, we have the 6 and the 10. Up here we had the 6 and the 10, and we used 30 as our denominator. So let's do that again. 5/6, we convert that to 30ths. 6 times 5 would give us that 30. So we also multiply the 5 times 5. We get 25. Now we rewrite the 7/10 as 30ths. 10 times 3 would give us 30, so we need to do the same with the 7. 7 times 3 is 21. 25 30ths minus 21 30ths would be 4 30ths. Again, you just subtract the numerators, denominator stays the same. 4 30ths can be simplified because they're both even. So divide them both by 2 and you get 2 15ths. Number 3. Wow, we're given the same 6 and 10 again. They like those numbers. So let's go with 30 again for our denominator. 1/6 becomes 5 30ths because 6 times 5 is 30. So 1 times 5 is 5. And the 3/10, 10 times what is 30? 10 times 3. So we do the same with the numerator. 3 times 3 is 9. Now we have 5 30ths plus 9 30ths would be 14 30ths. I can simplify because they're both even. We'll divide by 2 and we get 7 15ths. 14 divided by 2, 30 divided by 2. In our last one here, 2/3 plus 1/12. Okay, so common denominator, 12, because 3 goes into 12. So the 1/12 stays the same, and we rewrite 2/3 as 12ths. So we ask ourselves 3 times what is 12? 3 times 4 is 12. So do the same to the numerator, so it's equivalent. 2 times 4 is 8. 8/12 plus 1/12 is 9/12. 9/12 can be simplified because they're both divisible by 3. So divide top by 3, divide bottom by 3, and we get 3/4. Now we just have 2 story problems to do, number 6 and number 8. So number 6 says, Sammy took 3/4 of an hour to travel from home to the zoo. He took 1 1/4 hours to return home. How much longer did it take to return home than to go to the zoo? So it took 1 1/4 hours to go home, but only 3/4 to go there. So we're trying to find the difference, how much longer it took to return home. So we subtract. So we're taking 1 1/4 hours minus 3/4 hours to find the difference, to see how much longer it took to come home than to go to the zoo. So if we're subtracting, we want to convert this to an improper fraction, so it's easier to subtract. So 1 1/4, remember there's a few ways to do this. A little trick we talked about in class was 4 times 1 plus 1. So 5/4. So 4 times 1 plus 1. Or you can think of the 1 as 4/4 and then add the 1/4 and you get 5/4. So we end up with 5/4 hours minus 3/4. Now it's easier to subtract. 5 minus 3 is 2. 2/4, which is actually 1/2 simplified. So it took a half an hour more. So 1/2 hour more to return home. That's number 6. And then number 8, Allie went to a bookshop. He spent, maybe it's Ali, I'm not sure. He spent 3/5 of his money on books and 1/4 of it on a pen. What fraction of his money did he spend altogether? So he has 3/5 of his money on books and then another 1/4 of his money on a pen. So if we want the total fraction of what he spent altogether, we add those fractions. Now to add fractions, you need like denominators. So we rewrite it with a common denominator. So 5 and 4, I ask myself, what's the least common multiple of those numbers? And it's 20. So I'm going to use 20 as my common denominator. Now I rewrite each of the fractions using that new denominator. So I ask myself, 5 times what is 20? 5 times 4. So I do the same to the numerator, and I get 3 times 4, which is 12. Now I do the same with 1/4. 1/4 is how many 20ths? So I ask myself, 4 times what is 20? 4 times 5 is 20, so I need to do the same with the 1. 1 times 5 is 5. I end up with 12 20ths minus 5 20ths, which is 17 20ths. So what fraction of the money did he spend? So he spent 17 20ths of his money. Then the second part of the question says, what fraction of his money did he have left? So if he spent 17 20ths, what fraction is left? So his total amount of money, let's just say this is his total amount of money. You actually use it like a bar. His total amount of money would be 20 20ths. Imagine this is 20 pieces. So 20 20ths would be his total amount of money. So he's somewhere like here. He's 17 20ths he spent. So the difference would be 3 20ths, because the total amount is like 1. It's all of his money, or 20 20ths of his money. So this part that he did not spend would be 3 20ths, because 17 20ths plus 3 20ths would be all of his money, 20 20ths of his money. So the answer to part B would be 3 20ths.
Y-E-A-H. Yay for math!